Hello everybody, Andrew Blake from the digitalaudiomanual.com. Today let's talk about the electric bass, which is part of Absolute 6 in Cubase. If you picked up the Absolute 6 collection, then you have the sound module of the electric bass, which is played within Halion. You could also have purchased this separately, but I'm looking at it as part of Absolute 6. This is a dedicated sound module just for the electric bass. As you look at this interface, you have various things here, including the picture of a fretboard on the bass, keys at the bottom where you can play the notes, but then all kinds of articulations and key switches and various kinds of things, along with a large list of presets of different bass sounds. So what does this sound module really offer us? How do we get it so that it's not so intimidating and we can make full use of it? Well, let's explore what this has to offer. First of all, when you want to open it up, if you look at all your sound sources in Halion, you can see there's one icon here that says the electric bass. And if I click on that, it brings me to all my different presets. I can just double click one of these presets. I can see it load in the upper area, and then the interface will change accordingly. So one of our first sound shaping options we have over here on the left, this is considered the parameter section, and there's a knob up here that says DI or amp. Over on the right, we have all these effects. We can spin this knob to fully go through the effects, or to be just a direct only signal, or to make some kind of blend. If I start out going through the effects, and then bring it back to direct only. Next, we have a range of various pickups. There's a whole list here. As you change these, you can also see in the picture that the pickups will change. Let me quickly play the list so you can hear it, starting with a J bass. Then we have a range of articulations. I'm not going to go through all of these, but let me play you a few of them. First one being sustain. The sustain pick. This muted one sounds really good. Next up, we have the option for the players. If I hit this drop-down list, I have all kinds of options between blues, jazz, metal. The idea of the player is that the notes are going to be played like somebody from that genre would play them. In other words, they tried to model from some well-known bass players, the way that each one of them would play the same example. Some people move across the neck, some people stay on the same string. So as you move down these choices, you'll hear your music example being played, but it has a slightly different slant to it depending on how that player would do it. If I hit the metal option, the notes are kind of played on the one string. If I go to the pop option, then I get a different kind of performance. They always play the same notes, but they're played differently on the fretboard. Right on the bass itself, you have knobs for the level and the tone, just like you would on a real bass. And then here's an option that really adds some realism. We have this radio button down here that says Ghost Notes. Click this on or off, and then set the threshold. Right now it's set for 40. What that means is anything that has a velocity over 40 is going to sound one way. Anything with a velocity under 40 is going to sound like this ghost note. And this ghost note, kind of like a muted note. Let me demonstrate this. You're going to like this. I'm going to go into the key editor where I can easily adjust velocities. I'm going to select all my notes. Right now the velocity is set at 45. When I play this, but now I'm going to go up and spin the velocity. Listen to what happens when I cross over 40. You get that muted pluck sound where you can really do something interesting with this. I'm going to set these all back again above 40, but I'm going to take a few choice notes out of here and select them. You just hold control when I do this. Now I'm going to spin those notes velocity down to that 40 threshold. Now listen to what it did to the performance of those notes. That's a great effect. Next up, we have an option here that says Auto Legato. This allows you to hear hammer-on and pull-off type things that a bass player will do on a fretboard. Basically, you're going to hear the notes become more distinct. When this is off and I play it, it sounds like a bunch of MIDI notes, but when I turn it on, all the notes become much more distinct. This effect will only work on notes that are kind of close to each other. Next, you have an option for an auto slide. If you turn this on and the notes are farther than 3 semitones away, then you're going to get a slide effect. It sounds like this. Up here on the picture of the guitar, the little gear, it allows you to make some extra settings. For example, that slide speed, it can be adjusted. depending on the velocities of the notes, along with the pitch bend, some other settings here. If you look down here in the keyboard area, you have all these pink notes. These are actual recordings of bass performances, various sliding techniques. Let me play some of these for you. Of course, you really couldn't create something like that by MIDI. These are actual recordings of the bass. And what you can do, create your MIDI performance, sound something like this. Something very simple, but then I can sprinkle in these performances and come up with something like this. And there's no way you could do something like that with just MIDI. All right, so I put some bars together, some typical kind of bass riffs, but I didn't add any of the key switches or extra effects that this thing has. So I want to play it first so you can hear the before, and it sounds okay. It sounds like a bass part. I have the bass part up a little bit louder in the mix so we can focus on how it sounds. Listen to this, then we'll see what we can do to add some more realism to it. Here it is before any finishing touches. So if we take that MIDI part, open it up in the key editor, you can see there's just some basic MIDI notes here. I go down to my MIDI controller messages. I go to the option that says Articulations, Dynamics. Right now we can see there's nothing here. I come up to the Expression Map tab. Right now it says No Map. I click on that. I have a bunch of previous maps here. Go down to the bottom where it says Import the key switches. Immediately we have a map, and then we have all these options in the key editor. If I take my pencil tool, I can click on any one of these. I'm going to draw in the option play those particular key switches. Right now I'm going to draw in the sustain. It's the basic sound we've been listening to. Let's play a little bit of that. See if we can change to the slap articulation right here. It's interesting. Let's go back to the sustain again. Let's draw in the sustain pick. Let's try this slap pull option. That one sounds good. See what happens with the harmonics. Let's play a few of those and then change back to the slap. See how that sounds. That's interesting. See what the mute sounds like. Can't get enough of that sound. Now to really add that extra touch, let's get some of those recordings, the various slides in there. Basically, if I draw a note up here around C6 and get this kind of sound. Once I draw a note like that, I could use my arrows to move around, get all kinds of other options. Sounds good. And put another one at the end. Now we're getting somewhere. All right, let's hear what our masterpiece sounds like now. Pretty darn cool. And of course, there's lots more we could do with this. We'll save that for another time. All right, it's going to wrap it up for today. As always, if you haven't already, click the link in the description of this video to learn how you can get access to the all-new Digital Audio Manual Preferred. It's the clear, step-by-step solution showing you not only the tips, but all the secret and typically never talked about features that'll take you to a higher level of using your software. If you've been searching for an all-in-one solution to take you from start to finish and learning Cubase and Wavelab and other music software, this is exactly what you've been looking for. So click on the link in the description and come and be part of the clear path to a better learning experience. So today we had a look at the electric bass inside of the Absolute 6 collection. We took a tour of the parameters, the effects, and the fretboard area. We learned how to control the direct input knob to the effects. We had a look at all the articulations, learned what the players did, saw some examples of what the ghost notes are. So now we know how to use those. We looked at the auto legato and the auto slide. We heard some examples of the recordings of the bass slides, and we put it together in a demo song to hear the before and after of what the various key switches and articulations can do to the bass sound. As we continue to explore all our different creative options and the various tools that we have available to us, we'll pick this up again next time. As always, it's great to have you guys here, and I'll see you on the next video.